4 days after my emergency C-section, my husband walked into my hospital room holding 2 coffees and sat down like we were about to discuss weekend plans. "Rachel," he said, setting 1 cup on the table beside my bed, "I need you to hear me out." That's when I knew. You don't say, "hear me out," when you're bringing good news. You say it when you're about to blow up someone's life and want them to sit still while you do it. Marcus looked tired. Expensive tired. The kind that comes from too many business dinners and hotel bars, not from pacing hospital hallways worried about your wife. He wore the navy suit I'd picked out for him last Christmas. His wedding ring caught the fluorescent light as he pulled an envelope from his jacket. "I've been thinking," he said. I stared at him from the hospital bed, still swollen, still bleeding, still feeling like my body had been split open and barely stitched back together. My daughters, Sophia and Lily, were asleep in their bassinets by the window, 3 days old, perfect and tiny and completely unaware their father was about to offer me money to disappear. "Thinking about what?" I asked quietly. Marcus slid the envelope across my tray table, right next to the untouched Jell-O cup and plastic spoon. "About what's best for everyone." I didn't touch the envelope. I just looked at him. "Open it," he said. So I did. Inside was a cashier's check. The number had so many zeros I had to count them twice. $3 million. Underneath it, legal papers, divorce petition, custody agreement, my name typed neatly at the bottom with a blank line waiting for my signature. I read the custody section twice because surely I was misunderstanding. Surely the pain medication was making me confused. But no. Full physical and legal custody to Marcus Whitmore. I looked up at him. "You want the babies?" "I want what's stable for them," he said, like he was explaining why we should switch phone carriers. "Rachel, be realistic. You're exhausted. You're emotional. You just went through major surgery." My hands started shaking, not from fear, from something colder. "And you think I should just, what, take the money and leave?" Marcus leaned back in the chair. "I think you should consider what kind of life you can give them versus what I can provide." That sentence landed like a slap. Marcus Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Properties, one of the fastest-growing real estate development companies in South Florida. Luxury condos, waterfront hotels, commercial towers from Miami to Tampa. He'd built an empire in 7 years. Or so everyone thought. I'd helped build it too. While he was shaking hands and closing deals, I was managing the accounting, filing permits, reviewing contracts at midnight while he slept. But somewhere along the way, Marcus had rewritten the story in his head. Now he was the visionary genius, and I was just the exhausted wife who couldn't handle motherhood. "Marcus," I said slowly, "these are our daughters." "Exactly." He stood up and walked toward the window, looking down at Sophia and Lily like they were investments he was evaluating. "Which is why they need the best possible start, and right now, that's with me." I pressed my hand against my incision. The pain grounded me, kept me from screaming or crying or throwing that Jell-O cup at his head. "Who is she?" I asked. Marcus turned around. "What?" "The woman you're doing this for. Who is she?" For just a second, something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or guilt. Then the door opened, and she walked in. Vanessa Chen, 29 years old, sharp black pantsuit, hair pulled back in a perfect bun, the director of acquisitions at Whitmore Properties, the woman who'd been traveling with Marcus to property sites for the last 8 months. She didn't look at me. She looked at Marcus. "The lawyer's here," she said softly. That's when I understood. This wasn't spontaneous. This was planned, choreographed. They'd probably discussed it over breakfast. Marcus picked up the envelope and held it toward me. "Sign it, Rachel. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I looked at my daughters. then at the check, then at my husband and the woman standing beside him like she already belonged there. And I made a decision that would change everything. I picked up the pen. I held the pen. Marcus exhaled like a man who just closed a difficult deal. Vanessa's shoulders relaxed slightly. Behind them, the hospital hallway was quiet except for a medication cart squeaking somewhere far away. The paper sat in front of me. Clean white pages, legal language, my name at the bottom waiting to be filled in. I looked down at the custody section one more time. Full physical and legal custody to Marcus Whitmore. Then I set the pen down. "No," I said quietly. Marcus's face changed. "What?" I said no. My voice was steadier than I expected. He stepped closer to the bed. "Rachel, don't be stupid. This is a generous offer." "Generous," I repeated. The word tasted bitter. Vanessa shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe we should give her some time to—" "She doesn't need time," Marcus snapped. Then he turned back to me, lowering his voice. "Listen to me. You're on pain medication. You're hormonal. You're not thinking clearly." I almost laughed. "I'm thinking perfectly clearly." $3 million, Rachel. Most women would. "I'm not most women." I looked straight at him. "I'm their mother." Something flickered across his face. Frustration? Maybe even genuine confusion, like he truly couldn't understand why money wasn't solving this problem. "You can't take care of them," he said. "Look at you. You can barely move." He was right about that part. My incision throbbed. My whole body felt wrecked. Standing up took effort. Walking to the bathroom was an accomplishment. But weakness isn't the same as defeat. "Get out," I said. Marcus stared. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Take your check, take your papers, take her," I nodded toward Vanessa, "and get out of my room." His jaw tightened. "You're making a mistake." "The only mistake I made," I said slowly, "was thinking you were a good man." That landed. I saw it in the way his expression hardened. He picked up the envelope, grabbed the papers, and buttoned his suit jacket with sharp, angry movements. "Fine, we'll do this the hard way." "I guess we will." Vanessa followed him toward the door. She paused for just a second and looked back at me. I couldn't read her expression. Guilt? Pity? Or just relief that the awkward part was over? Then they were gone. The door clicked shut. I sat there in the sudden silence, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. One of the babies, Sophia, made a small squeaking sound. Then Lily joined in, like they'd coordinated it. Within seconds, both were crying. I carefully swung my legs off the bed. Pain shot through my abdomen, but I ignored it. I lifted Sophia first, then managed to scoop Lily up with my other arm. 2 newborns, 7 pounds each, barely any weight at all. But holding them felt like holding the entire world. "Your daddy," I whispered, "is an idiot." Sophia's crying softened. Lily's tiny fist curled against my hospital gown. I sat back down on the bed, both daughters in my arms, and let myself feel everything at once. Fear, anger, exhaustion, but underneath it all, something else. Determination. My phone was on the bedside table. I shifted carefully and managed to grab it without dropping either baby. I scrolled to a name I hadn't called in almost 6 months. Kira Whitmore, my younger sister. 28 years old, corporate attorney in Tampa, the person Marcus had always called difficult because she asked too many questions and didn't smile at his jokes. I pressed call. She answered on the second ring. "Rachel? Oh my God, did you have the babies?" 4 days ago, I said. "What? Why didn't you—" She stopped. Her voice changed. "What's wrong?" That's the thing about sisters. They just know. Marcus came to the hospital today with his mistress. Silence. He offered me $3 million to give him the girls and disappear. More silence. Then, very quietly, I'm going to kill him. Get in line, I said. Did you sign anything? No. Good. Her voice sharpened instantly into lawyer mode. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Don't talk to him without me there. Kira, where are you right now? Still at the hospital, Mount Sinai. I'm leaving Tampa right now. I'll be there in 4 hours. I heard movement, keys jingling, a door slamming. Rachel, listen to me. Do not leave that hospital alone. Do you understand? I looked down at Sophia and Lily. Both had fallen asleep against my chest. I understand, I said. Good. I'm already on the highway. Stay put. I'm bringing everything we need. Everything for what? Kira's voice went cold in a way I recognized from childhood. It was the voice she used right before she won every argument we ever had. Everything we need, she said, to destroy him. She hung up. I set the phone down and looked at my daughters. The late afternoon sun came through the window, making everything golden and soft. Marcus thought this was over. He thought I'd fold, take the money, walk away quietly. But he'd forgotten something important. He'd forgotten that before he was my wife, I was the girl who built Whitmore Properties' entire digital infrastructure, every database, every cloud backup, every encrypted file. Marcus had the charm and the business degree, but I had the passwords. Kira walked into my hospital room 3 hours and 42 minutes later, wearing a black blazer, dark jeans, and the expression of someone ready to commit a felony. She took one look at me holding the twins, and her face softened for exactly 2 seconds. "Oh my God, they're beautiful," she whispered. Then the softness vanished. "Where is he?" she asked. "Gone. He left after I refused to sign." Kira set down a leather messenger bag and a small overnight case. "Good. That gives us time." She pulled out her laptop and a yellow legal pad, then sat in the chair beside my bed like we were about to prep for trial. "Start from the beginning," she said. "Every detail." So I told her. The hospital room entrance, Vanessa standing there like she belonged, the envelope, the $3 million check, the custody agreements that painted me as unstable. Kira's jaw got tighter with every sentence. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "He's been planning this for months." "I know." "No." She looked at me directly. "Rachel, you don't understand. Custody agreements like that don't get drafted overnight. The psychological evaluation clause, the supervised visitation language, that takes legal strategy." My stomach dropped. "How long?" "Minimum 3 months. Probably longer." She opened her laptop, which means while you were pregnant, dealing with bed rest, managing high blood pressure, Marcus was sitting in a law firm planning how to take your children. I looked down at Sophia and Lily, both asleep in the bassinet now. 3 months, maybe more. While I was getting ultrasounds and picking out nursery paint colors, my husband was preparing to erase me. "There's something else," Kira said carefully. "What?" "The money. 3 million is specific. Not 2, not 5. Exactly 3. She pulled up something on her screen. In Florida, any divorce settlement over 3 million triggers mandatory financial disclosure requirements. Anything under doesn't. I stared at her. So he picked the exact amount that would let him avoid showing where his money actually came from. Yes. The room felt colder suddenly. "Kira, what are you saying?" My sister looked at me the way she probably looked at opposing counsel right before destroying their case. "I'm saying Marcus didn't just take your daughters. He planned to hide something big while doing it." She turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was Whitmore Properties' public financial filings from the last 2 years. "I pulled these on the drive down," she said. "Look at the property acquisitions in the last 18 months. I scanned the list. luxury condos in Brickell, a hotel conversion in Clearwater, 3 commercial developments in Fort Lauderdale, all high profile, all expensive. Okay, I said. So? So look at the purchase prices versus the appraised values. She highlighted several rows. The numbers didn't make sense. Properties purchased for significantly more than they were worth, sometimes double. Why would Marcus overpay? I asked. He wouldn't. Not unless... She paused. Rachel, when you were managing the company's digital systems, did you ever notice unusual wire transfers, payments to offshore accounts, anything that felt wrong? My mind raced back. 2 years ago, Marcus had asked me to set up a new accounting database, said the old system was outdated. I'd migrated everything to a cloud-based platform, created the architecture, set the security protocols. Then 6 months later, he'd said the company was bringing in specialists to handle the tech side, that I didn't need to worry about it anymore. I'd felt hurt, but I'd also been exhausted from fertility treatments and didn't fight it. There was one thing, I said slowly. About a year ago, I was still getting automated backup reports sent to my email. I noticed transactions flagged as development consulting fees, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I didn't recognize the consulting firms. Kira leaned forward. Do you still have those emails? Maybe. They'd be in my old work account. Can you access it? I thought about that. Marcus had told me my company email was deactivated when I went on maternity leave, but I'd set up that entire system. I knew the admin passwords. I knew the backup servers. Yes, I said. I can access it. Kira smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile she used to give bullies in high school right before she reported them to the principal with documented evidence. Then here's what we're going to do, she said. You're being discharged tomorrow, right? Supposed to be. Good. You're not going home. What? Rachel, think about it. Marcus tried to get you to sign away your daughters in a hospital room. What do you think he'll do when he realizes you refused, when he finds out you're coming home with the babies? The thought hadn't fully formed in my mind until she said it out loud. He'll take them, I whispered. Or he'll create a situation that makes you look unstable. Call the police, claim you're having a breakdown, get an emergency custody order. Kira closed her laptop. We're not giving him that chance. Then where do I go? I have a client. Divorce case I handled last year. She owns a beach house in Anna Maria Island. It's empty right now. Off season, no one knows about it except me. I looked at the twins, then at my sister. How long? I asked. As long as it takes to build the case. She pulled out her phone. But first, we get you out of here quietly. Tomorrow morning, early, before Marcus thinks to check. And then? Kira's expression went hard. Then, we figure out what your husband is really hiding, because men who overpay for real estate by millions of dollars unless they're washing dirty money, and men who wash dirty money don't get to take children from their mothers. She stood up and grabbed her bag. I'm staying tonight. Hospital recliners and comfortable, but I've slept in worse. Besides, someone needs to keep watch. Kira, don't thank me yet, she said. This is going to get ugly. I believed her, but for the first time since Marcus walked into this room, I didn't feel alone. We left the hospital at 5:47 in the morning. The sky was that strange purple-gray color that comes right before sunrise in Florida. The parking lot was nearly empty, except for a few night shift cars and Kira's black Audi parked near the side exit. Ready? Kira whispered. I nodded, even though I wasn't. She carried Sophia's car seat. I carried Lily's, moving slowly because every step pulled at my incision. A nurse named Patricia, one of the good ones who didn't ask questions, had helped us out through the staff corridor. She'd hugged me at the door and said quietly, You didn't hear this from me, but your husband called last night asking what time you'd be discharged. That had made the decision easier. Kira loaded both car seats into the back while I lowered myself carefully into the passenger seat. My body screamed in protest, but adrenaline covered most of the pain. "You okay?" Kira asked, starting the engine. "No," I said honestly, "but drive anyway." She pulled out of the parking lot just as the first orange light hit the palm trees along the highway. We didn't talk much for the first hour. Kira kept checking the rear view mirror like she expected Marcus to appear behind us in his silver Range Rover. I kept turning around to look at the twins, making sure they were still breathing, still real, still mine. The highway stretched out flat and straight. We passed Fort Lauderdale, then Hollywood, then the turnoff toward Naples. Florida in early morning looked clean and empty, like the whole state was still asleep. Around 7, my phone started buzzing. Marcus calling. I let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again 30 seconds later, then again. "Turn it off," Kira said. "What if—" "Rachel, turn it off." I powered down the phone and shoved it in my bag. "He's going to lose his mind," I said quietly. "Good. Let him." Kira changed lanes smoothly. Panicked men make mistakes. We want him making mistakes. By 9, we crossed the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. The water below was bright turquoise, dotted with fishing boats and pelicans. I'd driven this bridge 100 times before, but today it felt different, like crossing into another world. Anna Maria Island appeared low and sandy ahead of us, all pastel-colored beach houses and palm trees swaying in the Gulf breeze. Kira turned down a quiet residential street lined with vacation rentals. Most had for rent signs in the windows. Off-season meant empty. Empty meant safe. She pulled into a driveway halfway down the block. The house was small, pale yellow with white shutters and a screened porch facing the beach. Tropical plants grew wild around the edges. A wooden sign by the door said "See la vie" in faded letters. "It's perfect," I whispered. Kira grabbed the diaper bag. "My client said no one's booked it until December. We have time." Inside smelled like salt air and old furniture. The living room had a couch covered in seashell-patterned fabric, a coffee table made of driftwood, and windows that looked straight out at the ocean. I could hear waves. Something in my chest loosened slightly. Kira set up both bassinets in the bedroom while I fed the twins. Sophia ate hungrily. Lily kept falling asleep mid-feeding, then waking up angry when I tried to burp her. "You're just like me," I told her quietly. "Stubborn." When both girls were finally down, I found Kira on the porch with her laptop open. "Already working?" I asked. "Always." She didn't look up. "I'm trying to access Whitmore Properties' cloud database. You said you built the original system?" "Yeah, 2 years ago." "Do you remember the admin credentials?" I thought back. Marcus had insisted on setting the master password himself, but I'd been the one who created the backup access protocol. Standard security practice. Always have a back door. "I might," I said slowly. Kira turned the laptop toward me. The login screen for Whitmore Properties' financial database stared back at me. Clean, corporate. The logo Marcus had paid a designer $8,000 to create. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. "What if it's changed?" I asked. "Then we find another way in." Kira leaned back. "But try." I typed in the backup admin username I'd created. RMW_system_admin_02. Then the password, a string of numbers and letters that Marcus never knew existed. The screen loaded for 3 long seconds. Then it opened. Kira sat up straight. "You're in." Holy shit! I'm in! The database homepage appeared. Accounting records, property files, transaction histories, everything Whitmore Properties had done for the last 2 years, sitting right there on the screen. Kira pulled the laptop closer and started scrolling. "Okay," she said, her voice taking on that sharp lawyer tone. Let's see what your husband's been hiding. She opened the transactions folder. The first file that came up was Development Consulting, Apex Solutions, LLC. Payment amount, $847,000. Date, 3 months ago. Kira clicked on the details. The payment had been routed through 2 offshore accounts before landing in a business registry I didn't recognize. What is Apex Solutions? I asked. That, Kira said quietly, is an excellent question. She opened another file, then another. Meridian Group Consulting, $623,000. Coastal Development Advisors, $891,000. Every single one routed through offshore accounts. Every single one with vague descriptions like consulting services or strategic development. I stared at the screen, my stomach sinking. How much? I asked. Kira kept scrolling, adding numbers in her head. Finally, she stopped. In the last 18 months, she looked at me, at least $12 million. The room went very quiet, except for the sound of waves outside. Rachel, said Kira carefully, what kind of real estate consulting costs $12 million? It doesn't, I said whisperly. Exactly. She closed the laptop, which means Marcus isn't consulting. He's laundering. My phone, still off, sat on the table between us like a bomb. I knew the second I turned it back on, reality would come crashing in. Angry voicemails, threatening texts, maybe even lawyers. But right now, in this quiet beach house with my daughters asleep in the next room and my sister sitting across from me, I had something Marcus didn't know I had. Information. And if Kira was right, that information was about to change everything. I turned my phone back on at 2 in the afternoon. Mistake. It immediately exploded with notifications. 17 missed calls from Marcus, 9 voicemails, 14 text messages, 3 emails, and 1 call from a number I didn't recognize with a Miami area code. Kira was in the kitchen making coffee when my phone started buzzing again, Marcus calling for the 18th time. Don't answer it, she said without turning around. I'm not, but I opened the voicemails on speaker. The first one was Marcus trying to sound concerned. Rachel, where are you? The hospital said you checked out early. I'm worried. Call me back. The second one, an hour later, less concerned. This isn't funny. You can't just disappear with my daughters. Call me. By the 5th message, the mask had completely dropped. You think you can run? His voice was cold now, sharp. You think I won't find you? I have lawyers, Rachel, real lawyers. You're going to regret this. The last voicemail had come in 20 minutes ago. Fine, don't call back. My attorney will be in touch. And Rachel? A pause. You just made this so much worse for yourself. The message ended. Kira walked over and handed me coffee. Predictable. What happens now? I asked. Now he files emergency motions, tries to paint you as unstable, claims you kidnapped the twins. She sipped her coffee. Standard playbook for rich men who don't get their way. My stomach twisted. Can he actually get them taken away? Kira sat down across from me. Not if we move faster than he does. How? By proving he's not the stable businessman he pretends to be. She pulled out her laptop again. I spent the last 2 hours digging into those shell companies. Apex Solutions, Meridian Group, all of them. They're registered in the Cayman Islands. That's legal, right? Lots of companies use offshore. It's legal if you're doing it for legitimate tax purposes. It's money laundering if you're using them to hide the origin of funds. She turned the screen toward me. Look at this. She'd created a flowchart. I recognized some of the company names from Whitmore Properties database, but Kira had added connections I hadn't seen. Lines connecting the shell companies to real estate purchases, then to other LLCs, then back to Whitmore Properties. It's a circle, I said slowly. Exactly. Marcus buys a property through Whitmore Properties, then he sells it to one of these shell companies at an inflated price. The shell company pays him millions more than it's worth. That money gets washed clean through the offshore accounts, then comes back into Whitmore Properties as consulting fees. I stared at the screen. But where's the dirty money coming from in the first place? Kira zoomed in on one section of the flowchart. That's what I can't figure out yet, but look at the timing. She pointed to dates. The first suspicious transaction happened 22 months ago, right after Whitmore Properties landed the Marina Bay development contract. I remembered that project, a massive waterfront complex in Miami, $200 million budget. Marcus had celebrated for a week straight. What about it? I asked. Marina Bay was a city-funded project, public money, which means public oversight, inspections, auditing. Kira's eyes narrowed. What if Marcus wasn't just building condos? What if he was inflating costs, billing the city for materials that never existed, pocketing the difference? The words hung in the air. That's fraud, I whispered. That's federal fraud, Kira corrected. And if I'm right, it's not just 3 million he's hiding, it's tens of millions. My phone buzzed again. This time, an email. From Robert Chen, Chen and Associates Legal. Subject, immediate legal action. Whitmore versus Whitmore. I opened it with shaking hands. Mrs. Whitmore, I represent Marcus Whitmore in the matter of your marriage dissolution and custody of minor children, Sophia and Lily Whitmore. My client has made repeated attempts to contact you regarding the children's welfare and location. Your refusal to communicate and your removal of the children from their primary residence constitutes parental interference under Florida Statute 787.03. If you do not produce the children and provide your current location within 24 hours, we will be forced to pursue emergency legal remedies, including but not limited to criminal charges. Additionally, my client is prepared to file for emergency custody based on concerns about your mental state following childbirth. Medical professionals have documented postpartum complications that may impair your judgment. This is your final opportunity to resolve this matter cooperatively. Robert Chen, SQ. I read it twice, my hands trembling. Kira! She was already reading over my shoulder. When she finished, she laughed. Actually laughed. What's funny about this? I asked. Everything. She grabbed her phone. This email is a bluff from start to finish. Criminal charges for taking your own newborns to a safe location? Please. And medical professionals documented postpartum complications? You had a C-section, not a psychotic break. But what if... Rachel, look at me. I did. This is what Marcus does. He makes people afraid, makes them doubt themselves, makes them think he has power he doesn't actually have. Her voice was steel. But he just made a mistake. What mistake? She held up her phone. He threatened you in writing, with criminal charges he can't actually file. That's intimidation, possibly coercion. She smiled coldly. And it's evidence. My phone buzzed again. Another call from Marcus. This time, Kira answered it. Marcus, she said pleasantly. This is Kira Whitmore, Rachel's attorney and sister. Any further communication should go through me. I couldn't hear his response, but I watched Kira's expression. Actually, you should be very concerned about where this is going, because we've been reviewing Whitmore Properties financials, and we have some fascinating questions about your offshore consulting fees. Silence on the other end. I could imagine Marcus's face. That's what I thought, Kira continued. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw your custody petition. You're going to stop threatening my sister. And in exchange, we'll keep this divorce quiet and private. More silence. Or, Kira said, her voice dropping, Or we take everything we found to the Miami-Dade District Attorney's Office and let them ask you about Marina Bay's inflated construction costs. Your choice." She hung up. I stared at her. "Did you just blackmail my husband?" "No," she said calmly. "I just gave him an opportunity to make a smart decision for once in his life." My phone stayed silent for the next 3 hours, but I knew Marcus. Silence didn't mean surrender. It meant he was planning something worse. Marcus didn't wait 3 hours to respond. He waited 3 days. 3 days of silence that felt like waiting for a hurricane you knew was coming, but couldn't see yet. During those days, I fell into a strange rhythm at the beach house. Wake up every 2 hours to feed the twins, change diapers, rock Sophia back to sleep, watch the sunrise over the Gulf while Lily made angry grunting sounds against my shoulder. Kira worked 16-hour days at the kitchen table, building what she called the case. Phone calls with forensic accountants, database deep dives, legal briefs that made my head hurt just looking at them. On the third night, while I was feeding Lily at 2 in the morning, Kira's phone rang. She answered immediately, listened for 30 seconds, and her face went pale. "Are you sure?" she asked quietly. More listening. "Okay, yes, I understand. Thank you." She hung up and looked at me. "What?" I asked, my stomach already dropping. "That was my contact at the Coral Gables courthouse." She set her phone down carefully. "Marcus filed an emergency custody motion this afternoon. The hearing is tomorrow at 10. The room tilted slightly. "Tomorrow?" "He claimed immediate danger to the children, alleged you're mentally unstable, potentially a flight risk, and that the children need to be placed in protective custody." "Protective custody?" My voice cracked. "From their own mother?" Kira's jaw tightened. "He submitted an affidavit from a psychiatrist who says you showed signs of postpartum psychosis during your hospital stay." "I never even spoke to a psychiatrist." "I know, which means either Marcus found someone unethical enough to file a false report, or..." She stopped. "Or what?" "Or he fabricated the entire document." Lily had stopped eating and was staring up at me like she could sense my panic. "Can he do that?" I whispered. "He just did," Kira said, standing up and starting pacing. "And here's the problem. If we don't show up to that hearing, he wins by default. The judge will issue a temporary custody order, and we'll have to fight for months to reverse it." "So we show up." "Rachel, if you walk into that courthouse, Marcus will know exactly where you are. He'll have people watching, security, maybe even police if he's convinced you're unstable." I looked down at Lily, then over at Sophia sleeping in the bassinet. "I'm not losing them," I said quietly. Kira stopped pacing and looked at me. Something shifted in her expression. "Then we need help, the kind we can't get from databases or legal briefs." "What kind of help?" She picked up her phone again and scrolled contacts. "There's someone," she said slowly, "someone who knows all of Marcus's bodies are buried." His name was David Ortega. He arrived at the beach house the next morning at 7, driving a 10-year-old Toyota and wearing khakis and a polo shirt that had seen better days. Mid-50s, graying hair, tired eyes. The kind of man you'd walk past on the street without a second glance. Kira met him at the door. "Thank you for coming," she said. David nodded once, then looked at me. "You're Rachel." "Yes. I worked for your husband for 4 years," he said. "Senior accountant at Whitmore Properties, until he fired me 6 months ago." I vaguely remembered Marcus mentioning someone being let go. He'd said something about performance issues. "Why did he fire you?" I asked. David's expression hardened. "Because I asked too many questions about Marina Bay." Kira led him to the kitchen table. He sat down and pulled a flash drive from his pocket. "Before Marcus terminated me, I made copies," he said. "Everything I could access. Invoices, wire transfers, email chains. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't prove it alone. He slid the flash drive across the table. "What's on this?" Kira asked. "Proof that Marcus billed Miami-Dade for materials that were never delivered, subcontractors that don't exist, inspection reports that were falsified." David's voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly. "He stole at least $18 million from the Marina Bay project." 18 million. The number hit like a physical blow. 18 million? "Why didn't you go to the police?" I asked. David looked at me. "Because Marcus Whitmore has friends in the Miami-Dade Development Office, friends who approved those invoices, friends who would have buried me if I'd gone public without ironclad proof." "And now?" Kira asked. "Now I don't care anymore." He stood up. "Marcus destroyed my career, blacklisted me. I haven't been able to get another accounting job in 6 months. My wife left me. I lost my house." He looked at the flash drive. "So yes, I want him exposed. But more than that," he looked at me, "I heard what he's trying to do to you. Taking your kids, calling you unstable." His voice roughened. "My daughter just had a baby. If her husband tried to do that to her, I'd want someone to help." Something in my chest tightened. "Thank you," I whispered. David nodded once, then headed for the door. "Wait," Kira called. "The hearing is at 10. Will you testify?" He paused with his hand on the doorknob. "If you can protect me from retaliation, yes." "I can't promise that, honestly. But I can promise that if you testify, Marcus won't be in a position to retaliate for very long." David considered that. Then he said, "I'll be there." After he left, Kira and I sat at the table staring at the flash drive. "Is this enough?" I asked. "To prove fraud, yes. To win a custody hearing, maybe." "Maybe?" Kira looked at me seriously. "Rachel, if we use this in court today, everything goes public. The fraud, the investigation, all of it. Marcus's reputation will be destroyed." "Good. But it also means the twins will grow up knowing their father is a criminal, that their name is attached to a scandal, that every article about Whitmore Properties will mention them." I hadn't thought about that. I looked over at Sophia and Lily, both sleeping peacefully. "They're 1 week old," I said quietly, "and their father is already trying to take them from me using lies and manipulation." I turned back to Kira. "I'd rather they grow up knowing the truth than grow up believing his version of it." Kira smiled slightly. "Okay then." She plugged the flash drive into her laptop. "Let's burn his world down." 6 months after that courtroom, I sat on the porch of our Anna Maria Island house, watching Sophia try to grab her own feet. The beach house wasn't temporary anymore. Kira's client had offered to sell it to me at a price I could actually afford with the divorce settlement, not the $3 million Marcus had tried to use as a bribe. The actual settlement, negotiated by Kira, that included half of everything Whitmore Properties had been worth before the investigation, which turned out to be considerably less than Marcus had claimed. The federal investigation moved fast once David Ortega testified. The FBI found everything: falsified invoices, shell companies, offshore accounts, bribery of city officials. Marina Bay was just the beginning. Marcus had been running the same scheme on 4 other major projects. Total fraud, $32 million. He was arrested on a Tuesday morning at his Coral Gables office. The news helicopters caught him being walked out in handcuffs. I didn't watch the footage. Kira did, though. She said he looked smaller somehow. The trial was set for next spring. Marcus's lawyers were negotiating a plea deal, but the prosecutors weren't feeling generous. Wire fraud, money laundering, bribery of public officials. He was looking at 15 to 20 years. Vanessa Chen disappeared the day the indictments came down. Word was she'd moved back to California and changed her name. I didn't blame her. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. My phone buzzed, a text from Tira. Custody order finalized. Full legal custody to you. Marcus gets supervised visitation if he wants it after release. If. I read it twice, then set the phone down. It was really over. Lily started crying inside. Sophia immediately joined in like they'd planned it. Twin telepathy was real, and it was loud. I stood up, my body finally feeling normal again after months of healing, and went inside. My daughters, my house, my life. Not the life I'd planned 6 months ago when I was lying in that hospital bed thinking my marriage was solid and my future was secure, but a better one. Because I'd learned something important in that hospital room when Marcus slid that envelope across my tray table. Money doesn't buy people. Not really. It buys silence, compliance, the appearance of acceptance. But it can't buy a mother's love. It can't buy dignity, and it definitely can't buy truth. Marcus had tried to erase me with a check and some legal papers. Instead, he'd erased himself. I picked up Sophia first, then Lily, and carried them both to the window. The Gulf of Mexico stretched out forever, blue and endless and free. Your daddy made a lot of mistakes, I told them softly, but the biggest one was thinking I'd walk away from you. Sophia grabbed my hair, Lily yawned. Outside, waves crashed against the shore, steady and relentless and real. And somewhere in Miami, Marcus Whitmore sat in a federal holding cell, probably still trying to figure out where his perfect plan went wrong. I could have told him. It went wrong the moment he underestimated the woman who built his empire. But he'd figure that out eventually. He had plenty of time.